This is the biggest fraud in the history of, I think, the world. The thing in Minnesota, daycares, tens of millions, has nothing on this. I'm talking about almost 300 billion with a B, billion dollars spent on Aboriginal programs over the last 10 years, and nobody knows where it went. The communities are deteriorating. Life expectancy is down. Where is this money? So let's talk about this. Last year, the budget on Indigenous programs, and I'm doing that in quotations for a reason, which I'll explain, was over $32 billion. Okay, for context, our national defense budget for the entire country, our entire national defense budget was $26 billion. We spent more on Aboriginal programs last year than the entire defense budget of the country. This is your money, by the way, your tax dollars. So they claim we spent the $32 billion last year and many billions more prior to cover things like water, housing, infrastructure. There's a big problem though. We didn't cover any of that because these communities are still struggling with fresh water. They can't get clean drinking water. They're rampant crime, drugs, alcohol abuse, serious problems in these communities. They're so mad, they're taking back land with land claims, which we've all seen in British Columbia and all these other areas. So we spent $300 billion to do nothing for these communities, piss them off more, and have them come back and take land back. Now, back in the good days of Stephen Harper, he passed some really good common sense legislation, which said, hey, we are going to pass some legislation to ensure the accountability and transparency for First Nations. That was the act that he passed. It said, hey, all this money we're spending, it seems to magically disappear and nobody knows where it's going. We give it to various heads of groups and associations and charities and nonprofits, but the money disappears. Let's make it mandatory that they have to publish where the money is being spent. Let's have open financials, audits. So they did that, and they found rampant fraud. So there was sanctions placed against a lot of these groups that were receiving the money, saying you can't get any more government money. Guess what happened when Trudeau came into power? Not only did they didn't repeal the act, but they said they'd stop enforcing it, and they dropped all sanctions against the First Nations communities. So everyone that we found out was basically stealing the money. It wasn't actually making it to the community. It was getting lost along the way. We stopped sending the money, and Trudeau said, no problem. We're going to drop those. We will keep sending you tens and tens of billions of dollars. That should be investigated, because why? Where is that money going? Whose pockets did it end up? We're not talking about $10 million, we're talking about almost $300 billion. That is massive. That is like 10% of our annual spending as a country across everything. It's big. Now, a typically left-leaning news outlet called The Atlantic, which, by the way, I have no affiliation with at all, they wrote a very good article on this whole thing, if you want to read more. It's called Good Intentions Gone Bad, and they tell you a lot more than I can share in this short video, but it explains the problem of how this money essentially has disappeared and just created a worse situation for everybody. This affects every single Canadian. This is $300 billion of your money, and it affects every single Aboriginal community. So if you care about any of that, you should care about this.